Hey, good afternoon, Eduardo. This is different episode timing for us. Usually we record in the morning. This one's in the evening. So, lot happened today, right? Like just in our lives. Do you want to share anything about how your day has been?
Hi, happy Saturday. Today we're in April 12th, 2025, and I did a little bit of gardening. I did a little bit of writing. I went to my mom's house up the street to go build some doors for an outside shed in the back. How about you? How did your day go?
I
And
had
yes,
a
it's 6 p.m. We usually start in the morning. So
I had a
how's your entire day go?
I had a pretty exciting day. So I started off pretty early. So this is my new Saturday routine. I go to a running club in Austin, and it's my third time, and I did finish a 5K run today again, and that was great. Had some al pastor tacos and east side, north side. That was great. And after that, I went to paddleboard on Lady Lake, and that was fun. I got some sunburn, but everything was we were just perfect. The day has been perfect so far. The weather has been great in Austin, and I'm just ready to call it a day. And after this recording, and just watch some TV and go back to sleep so that I can enjoy the Sundays more.
That's what I like exercise is when you get to bed.
Yeah,
Okay, so this is episode 5, I believe, of the Water Lobby video podcast, episode 5. And what type of topics are we bringing to our community today?
yeah. So speaking of community, there was a grant program from FEMA called BRIC or BRIC DTA, and it stands for Building Resilience in Communities. And it's a pretty high price tag program. And there was a news that came out earlier 2 weeks ago, kind of, which said FEMA has officially canceled the BRIC resilient program. And the way they kind of came out with that news story, it said FEMA ends wasteful politicized grant program, returning agency to core mission of helping Americans recovering from natural disasters. So, of course, this has been a very hot topic in our industry, and we've had a lot of people, come out and speak about it on LinkedIn, what their experience had been. And I feel like most of the posts kind of revolved around like, hey, this was not the most perfect program, but it was getting in a direction where, it was reaching stability and they were, hoping that it would start giving results. So this program's been running for a few years now. And I just wanted to, a lot of people have, spoken about different elements of this program. And I just wanted to touch on one, which is the management fees of this program. So I have something on the screen for listeners of the Water Lobby podcast. And I'm just basically showing a table where from 2020 all the way to 2023, how much funding was available for this. So first year, it had $500 million and then grew to $1 billion and then almost $2.3 billion and then $1 billion in 2023. At the same time, when they awarded $855 million in 2021 through this program, $2 billion in 2022, and $800 billion in 2023, $1 million. So pretty like big in terms of how water sector is. It's big, but this kind of money is really important for our sector. And the thing that has been kind of been catching my eye was that this program has very high management costs. So in 2021, it had $138 million in management cost. Then it increased to close to $300 million in 2022, and then $100 million in 2023. And the reason being, this isn't one of the programs that are, getting a lot of money to, like, let's say, states or cities for management. It's, a lot of consultants like Deloitte and Potomac Wave. These consultants are, getting a lot of money through this program. And, it's very, very interesting for me how programs that are meant for like building resilience in our communities, kind of sometimes get hijacked by consultants who I don't think firm like Deloitte, which is accounting firm, or has too much business talking about like water, flooding, or I don't think they have the right people with the right skill set. Although I have seen really talented people there, but at the same time, it's not what they're known for. They're kind of known for accounting and you know doing big three accounting, big four accounting kind of things. But having to see them managing America's resilience, it's kind of interesting. And at the same time, there was some criticism that, of the funding went to larger cities with more population centers rather than, smaller rural areas. And those were some of the criticisms that this program had received. And, that's why, the programs with the largest criticism become, meat on the chopping block the first, and that's what happened. So not sure if it was a good idea to cancel this program. I don't know if it was a bad idea. I just know that it was poorly run from the beginning, and that is something that I've seen the people who were working on these projects kind of acknowledge it whenever they were criticizing the government for canceling it. So, and I did see that there were some projects that were being funded even in the city of Austin through BRIC. So, Eduardo, do you have like any kind of this opinion, I guess, or something that you would bring up about the how?
Well, we're speaking in 2025 about the finances. Of course, an always changing federal relationship. We're in Texas, and I will be remiss to say that the urban centers of Texas and the federal government participate pretty well in times of disasters, like what some of these grants are intended to protect against, like make them more resilient. And during disasters, let's say Harvey or flooding is really my area of expertise, we tap into federal accounts for quick mobilization. And those are emergency funds from the federal government, not tied to any of these, like you said, consultants or bureaucrats or technocrats. So I also don't feel like those cuts are relevant to the infrastructure work of disasters, because you have a disaster, your roads break, your levees over top, they need repair, your trees get all cut up all over the bridges and around people's fences and all that. People need to be rescued, cars need to be moved, all sorts of stuff happens, and that is a lot of liquid assets, um, to be able to employ the people that do that work after the disaster. I think there is a lot of waste. I agree with you. There's a lot of waste in studies and reports and flying people to go and talk to other people that are like their same level of aristocratic class, just to come back and tell us what we already could have just looked up on the internet. So the slashing of funding is slashing into something I would call waste. But I agree that if we're talking about infrastructure, let's talk about it. Like I've
Great.
never, yeah, some people think that like a hospital is infrastructure, and some people think it isn't.
Yeah.
So like that's a conversation to have. The people, maybe not so much for these very amorphous bureaucratic bodies that seem to have a lot of influence on the politicking and the political culture of this time. Does that make any sense? That
Yeah,
like
it
I
does.
feel like there's something to target, and I know that this doesn't seem targeted to my work in flood risk, but I know that there's like fire, earthquakes, hospital, diseases, vaccines. I don't know how that's managed, but I know that it's important as well. And I'm just going to stay in my lane. What do you think about that?
Well, I think you're hitting the nail on the right point where, we kind of sometimes, for example, whenever as a consultant, I approach a study, you know, uh, you walk into a community, you're not going to first on day one start telling them like, hey, this is, how it's done. You're going to first try to learn from their experience because, some of the, let's say, there was a flooding in Onion Creek in Austin many years ago. And the people who lived there, they firsthand experienced the the disaster and all the trauma that comes with it. And I was able to go to Texas Water Film Festival and kind of watch a documentary on this topic where people who were, really stuck on their homes as the flood waters came in and they were evacuated through helicopters and people had to climb out through ladders. Their neighbors had to help them. And there's a lot of trauma that still a lot of people are healing from these disasters. And you cannot put a consultant there and try to fix people's trauma or life just by, bringing set of solutions that have worked elsewhere or have worked on a PowerPoint presentation. It's just, I feel like sometimes you have to look at from the community's standpoint and, just let the community know they can resolve, a lot of these issues. They are, because they have firsthand felt it and they have that community bonding, community social networks that are really important. And the last thing they need is another PowerPoint presentation. I think they need resources and they need it right now. So instead of managing those funds for the tune of like hundreds of millions of dollars a year, if I think the objective sometimes should be like, how do you distribute that fund as fast as possible without that much of management fee? Because clearly the management fee did not help the communities. It's a fee administrative charge that just, got taken away from these communities. And I really feel for that. I think that's a lot of money, lots of potential, have really helped a lot of these people, maybe just by home buyouts, or, just by helping them repair their homes or maybe helping, their children go through their school education, their scholarships. And there are like hundreds of ways to, help them and make them feel better. And the PowerPoint is not one of them.
I agree. When we go to a post disaster site in the city of Austin, we try to exercise a lot of the community knowledge we've accumulated over decades of doing this work. I have a certified floodplain management certification from the floodplain managers. And it is almost such an unavoidable part of the work is dealing with human and animals and in states of extreme vulnerability, in states of extreme precarity, and not just dealing with a really rare circumstance, to be honest. For some people, these torrential flooding events are rare circumstances for one reason or another. And when it happens, it kind of highlights other aspects of risk that people don't generally think about. Like when you think about some accident that could happen to you, like you get a sprain on your leg, um, you don't really think about how much it hurts to do regular things until you get it. And then you're like, oh, a sprain in your leg is not just like a pain. A sprain in your leg is like really uncomfortable and really inconvenient until you actually heal from it. And so I think natural disasters have a tendency to be forgotten because they happen a little bit less frequently than regular like government services. But as a conversation topic for like budgeting, disaster is one of the largest items that we should expect to just have and not waste. I think
Yeah.
waste is a red flag on anyone's docket or on anyone's ledger, let's say, because
Yeah.
there's
And
also a lot of dark money that exists in politics for one reason or another, because we have like money as a resource, we have people as a resource, we have knowledge, power systems as a resource, and we're gaining a lot of weird moneyed people, and we're losing people. We're losing we're losing universities because I guess this the dialogue of efficiency. Yeah, I think we're trying to be more efficient by slashing and by criticizing these types of waste. Natural disasters are one of the biggest reasons, other than war, why engineering exists.
that's true. And with that, I had another topic that came about recent last week, but I have been like kind of looking at it for a while now, which is the US Mexico Treaty from 1944. So the 1944 Water Treaty requires Mexico to deliver 1.75 million acre feet of water to US over 5 years. And currently, Mexico is behind with a deficit of 835,000 acre feet as of August 24th. And the current cycle ends in 25 of October. And but the drought and infrastructure issues hinder this progress. And right now, this is catching a lot of steam. And you have everybody from the federal government looking into this. And at the same time, I know that in Texas, DCEQ has been actively working on it for a while. This is really important for not just Texas as well as Mexico, because both are countries that are very, very heavily reliant on agriculture. And what agriculture needs water to survive. That and people need agriculture for food, so it's all connected. And at the same time, I know people who lived in Mexico for many years, and then they were working in farms, and they were, they had jobs, maybe agricultural research jobs, and they had to leave those jobs and come into United States to maybe pursue another degree so that they can, continue working in agriculture. And I understand firsthand like how much harder it has been for Mexico to meet these requirements, not just the water transfer requirements, but at the same time to keep their own industry surviving and thriving, because the agriculture industry in Mexico has been struggling for a while. And we as Texans are, one of the biggest beneficiaries of, or have been, of all the agriculture that happens in Mexico. For example, HEB, one of the Texas' biggest prides. When you go there, you look for produce, and that a lot of this produce comes from Mexico. So I think this might be something where the federal government, I don't know if how much business they have. They probably do. I mean, it's a pretty, but at the same time, I think there needs to be bilateral talks on this, unlike the overall trade one where, the federal government took more unilateral approach. I think this one is where it has to be more bilateral. You cannot just discount the fact that Mexico is not giving you enough water, like, because even if they're not giving you water, they are giving you the, final product in large quantities. Like you're getting all the food that is generated in Mexico, the best avocados, they come straight to us, and we, of course, delightfully enjoy them. So yeah, what's your take then? I mean, it is not the most talked about topic in water right now, especially the Texas Water Foundation or other institutes that I've been, attending. I have not heard too much talk about this. All I've heard is like, hey, Texas Water Fund needs another like $2 billion to meet all the, infrastructure requirements. But I haven't heard too much about this topic yet. This topic has now come into national limelight with people like Elon Musk, openly tweeting about it and trying to accelerate the process where whatever is going on. And I think it is top three important topics right now for, Texas. So What do you think, Eduardo, on this treaty? And
I think that's an interesting topic, very relevant to any, nations sharing water resources. Thank you for sharing some of the history. It's 1944 is a long time to have a treaty and not be updated with information, because I think that the water scarcity problem is one of the most important kind of scientific inquiries we could have at the moment. I think about, like, how do we think about our surface waters? How do we keep track of that stuff? And it's like, well, acre feet. It's
yes,
how deep they are, and then you average it out on the surface, and that's easy to interpret and digest. But when you're dealing with water that's underground, water table, and in infiltration and recharge and underground currents of water, that is some really innovative science. I think it might even rival rocket science in terms of complexity. I always like to take this conversation into like a physical model type
yeah,
mathematics and physics. That's my training. But keeping it to a more political conversation, I don't think people know how to measure water, actually. And I think the people negotiating for water don't know how to measure water either. So, as important as this conversation is, I really do think that there's a competence topic we can delve into, because the models for underground storage, underground aquifer, I haven't been
and
impressed, let's say. What do you think about those kind of technical? I think it's a technical question. How much water do they owe us? At
yeah.
what rate should we receive it? What is the quality of the water that we're receiving too, right? Because we don't want to get water that we have to treat anyways. I think that's a very interesting conversation.
And another thing is like, they're asking for 1.3 million acres from Mexico. This is a lot of millions and a lot of acres feet of water that is being requested to,
Yeah, how
provide
many
for the
trucks
Texas
is
part.
that?
Yeah, I cannot even, in my head, I cannot even do the math on like how much water it is. It's probably going to fill up Lake Travis a couple of times. And
Yeah, I want to kind of take a step back to another topic that's very relevant, like this from the Federal Bureau or like all that stuff. It's like 50-50, where one thing is actually happening and then the other thing is just propaganda. And like the messaging regarding what's important has been so difficult. Like, you know what I mean? Like what makes this an important topic to other people other than just a trigger for the sector? I think the White House has already been accused of market manipulation, market rigging, and I do think that's those are relevant topics for, like, is this just important or is it not important? At the same time, we're debilitating FEMA, right, with executive orders. So, like, is it important or not important? It's just a hijacking of popular sentiment, I would say.
yeah, and at the same time, the pace at which all this is happening, we are not used to this much happen at that level of just so much going on, and it's really hard to digest. And I'm sure like the impact of it will be seen for many, many years. And, we'll be like, oh, we didn't even realize this happened. Because I'm sure there are things that we're not even catching right now.
Well,
And
I bring it up because we're talking about community knowledge and community indicators, and my people know where the water is. You just look at a LiDAR picture and you're like, there's the water right there. That tree wouldn't be there if there were no water. And the thing about water availability is that the water's right there. You just don't own it. And so, so it's like, I would like people to know that there's water. I would like for that kind of um, scarcity mindset to go away, because I don't believe it's true. I believe there's plenty of water to go around. I just don't believe that people want to give it to you. and this is the water lobby, and that's how I feel. I feel that we charge people for water and then we give it away for free to other people. That's entirely wasteful if we're talking about waste. What do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah. I think in terms of waste, the water loss through leaky pipes, that's definitely one of the big ones where people say it could be like close to 40-50% of water sends to transmission. It just gets lost through, water loss through because there's a pipe that's been leaking there and nobody knows where it is. And there have been methods like synthetic aperture radar to capture that. But I do agree that there is an abundance of water for sure. But at the same time, the amount of water that's, for example, I learned that Texas has enough brackish water underground that can last for another, let's say, 50 to 100 years if a basic amount of like desalination is done on that. So it's not like, super, super salty water between the seawater kind of salty and, the drinking potable water. So somewhere in the middle, and there is enough for all of us. If we can just, invest a little bit on this technology, which is desalination, I don't think we would have to talk about like million acres from Mexico to US. And again, just hammering on the point where, it's about the sentiment, right? Like of the community and exploitation of that sentiment. When they talk about how much water Mexico owes, they're not telling about like, how much water we can recover if we just invest, X millions of dollars on this problem of desalination. And yeah, there is abundance. It's just not
Yeah, I
enough.
think there's many pilot projects one could endeavor to bring up or spring into existence to look for water if water was such a scarce resource. But I think since the conversation that is laid out on the tweet is political in nature, I know it's not serious. And I prefer to engage with a critical opinion with regards to water because there's such a misinformation campaign around natural resources because a scarce resource is fossil fuels. But I mean, no one's talking about,
Yeah.
going to Mexico and taking their national model of fossil fuel, exploration. We're not talking about actual scarce resources that are real issues. We're making issues out of non-issues. I just don't want the water to be that. Just take
Yeah.
the water out of their mouth, is my opinion.
That is so fun. Like taking water, yeah, out of the mouth, like literally it's dehydrating them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just share that water is a incredibly, incredibly important resource in some communities. And the fact that we're not talking about them knows that we're not serious about water scarcity.
Yeah. And for anyone who wants to learn more about this topic, I'm just going to leave Dr. Rosario Sanchez from Texas A&M University has done great research on groundwater modeling and the U.S. Mexico transcontinental or transnational aquifers and how it works. And then there are, ways to engage with TCEQ to learn more about what this, TD is. And so just, do your own research and try to, yeah. Then another thing, yeah, it's a great science and it's a very interesting topic. I did want to move into water conservation because as we have, everyone screaming about, this natural resource on scarcity, there are ways we can conserve water. We have, industry using water. We have homeowners using water. We have cities using water and then there are many ways we can conserve water. And in Austin, we have the purple pipe water system, right? Like where if there's water that is being reused by on-site use or you can use that same water for irrigation or for just gardening purposes. So around those lines, like we have another professor named Dr. Robert Nace in Marcos State University at Meadows Center for Water and Environment. And he is kind of, one of the conservation specialists here. And big plug to ASCE in May in ACEWRI meetings. That is in May or 26th. We'll have Dr. Robert Mays come and speak about some of his research topics. And if anyone is in Austin, they should definitely go and listen to him, because the last event that I attended with Dr. Mays, there was a auditorium full of people where he delivered a lecture to school students on, and it was so amazing how much participation he was getting from all these students on just water conservation topic. And as a water nerd, I was just super impressed just by seeing, the future that is, we're getting older, right? There will be newer people who will be, taking some of these jobs that we've done in the last few years. And just really excited to see how much energy is there. And yeah, at the same time, while, we are doing all this water conservation stuff and trying to preserve or reduce our water usage by 20% or something. And City of Austin put a lot of effort into their water forward plan, which is more about, conserving water. And they've been trying to educate people about, just reducing the use of water. And Dr. Mays, in one of his slides, kind of made a joke about how he used to live in this downtown condo or downtown apartment where there was a new build, LEED Green certified, like everything. And the faucets that they had and the shower head, it was like certified for conservation. And he said the water pressure was so low he couldn't even shower. Like he used to hate showering in that apartment. And so these are real things that, people feel in their day-to-day life. Like water conservation is real. Like you can only water twice a week. Sometimes in Austin is a drought period, and you have to reduce your showers because you can heat peak, or you'll be overcharged for it. So yeah, it's fun. And at the same time, we've had just news come out from President of the United States where he said he's gonna end Obama-Biden war on water pressure and make America's showers great again. So any comments on making showers great again by letting them just full force the most high pressure shower you can have? First
Well,
off, what's your preference on shower? How do you like your shower? Hot, cold, and much pressure you like?
I think I like a hot shower. And then I used to brush my teeth in the shower, but not no more. Now I separate my teeth brushing from my showering. And so showering every day, of course. I don't know. I would, even if it's scarce, I might every day. Just use a little bit of water every day still. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there's
think that it's kind of funny. The free shower heads again, because my shower gets sometimes it gets the crystals. What is that? Carbonate buildup. Hard water. That's what I have. I have hard water.
yeah.
And so that to me is a more relevant issue than what is it called? Smart shower head.
Make make showers great again with smart showers or not smart.
Yeah. Make showers regular again.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's another thing called baby showers where you basically just go in and then you just tap some water on the edges and then just look like a new person.
Yeah. Well, when you go to the state park and you shower over there, some of those like state parks, they have warm showers now. Those are awesome too.
Which state park is it? Give a plus.
Well, I don't remember, but it might have been like Inks Lake or something like that. But I haven't been out there in a minute. But whenever I have a nice shower, whenever I'm camping, I remember. Except this time, of course. But yeah,
So
doctor, he has models of water, I think, doesn't he? Isn't that what he studies? Like how much water we have?
one of his research areas studying Edwards Aquifer, and he's been on the board of many agencies that do water conservation and build water availability models, different kind of models. Yeah, it's very fun. Like somebody we do the
He's
research.
great. Yeah, I will try to catch him in May.
Any comments on ASCE report card came out just like every year and it gave wastewater a D. So what do you think about I think the overall infrastructure rating of US improved from last year to this year. And the president of ASCE cited that it was because of the investment from Infrastructure and Job Security Act, IIJA. where a lot of infrastructure was able to improve and really improve. So, but the wastewater kind of received pretty bad ratings. And we hear, boil water notices all the time in our city that they live in, especially whenever there's a little bit of more freezing or anything, there's an immediate boil water notice. What do you think about like the E grade or wastewater?
Is this the grade for the entire nation's wastewater
I think
infrastructure?
so. Yeah.
That is tragic because that's their own stuff. I
Mm.
will say we've had a low grade for a while, so may as well get used to it. And of course, it's disheartening news since they don't really provide us like who's doing it better than us, though. Do you know anyone with better drainage than the United States of America?
Netherlands and Japan.
Japan has
Uh,
better drainage?
They have amazing drainage. So there was a
I
video on a channel called B1M. So it's like a B1M YouTube channel, and they have video on how they have like 100 foot or larger than 100 foot diameter tunnels underneath Japan, which just take all this water in whenever there's a hurricane or anything to flood them.
Yeah. So, okay. I'll give my real opinion. Of course, it's merited. A lot of the construction activities that I believe we can partake now, and this is coming from a place of extreme privilege because I work in a very urbanized town with a lot of resources, taxation resources spent on like city engineers, city planners, city chiefs of staff, managers. I come from a municipality that has it's like this capital of the state, so they have and readily equip themselves with some funding strategy, some program to initiate renovation of infrastructure. I remember at the onset of bike lanes and renewing all the infrastructure for transportation in Austin, that we can do that. We can have a bond election. People are excited to invest their own money to the city that has employed all the staff or would employ contractors from its very own area to work on those improvements. So I think that when I hear that grade, I feel challenged to meet it, and that comes from a place of privilege. I stated in the another episode before that the urban centers owe the rural take all their kids. They
Yeah.
come to cities and they want to have their lives here and they don't want to go back home. And so I think we owe them at least a peace of mind that their towns are going to be okay. And that grade, I don't think it's just because everyone's state of affairs is a unique situation. You can't really grade it if you're not
Yeah.
from your family. Who are you to judge? So I think of course it's unfair, but it's for playing and it's just for talking. And I think that it's really a grade on the relationship, right? So if you were to like rate the relationship that I have with infrastructure, I would agree. It's pretty bad because I think things could change, be better. There is an A, but just kind of steered towards a better grade infrastructure. Biden had a infrastructure and jobs back campaigning language. There was, I think, the Green Party candidate, Ocasio-Cortez, had a new deal to kind of take up the brand new deal from FDR, whoever that
Mm.
was. And these are realistic things we could do, but we're not talking like that anymore. I think we're talking about tariffs.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to more to some real things then that's happening here in Texas. The Brazos River Authority, which owns a lot of the water from Brazos River, and that they're going to build a new
Wait,
reservoir.
what do you think about that grade? Sanjay, don't skip on the question. What do you think about that grade?
Yeah, I think wastewater does, if it receives D, well, and it kind of states that, it's worse than the bridges, which, some of the bridges are really bad. And if we're saying the wastewater is worse than that, then especially for rural America, I know as I work in some of the regulation and, having to see, a lot of our rural places kind of fail some of their routine, examinations from, let's say, TCQ or EPA, or them not being able to employ, a class C wastewater operator, let's say, or them not being able to just continuously keep up with all the EPA requirements that come up. And sometimes there is good stories that come out of it, like the city of Wichita Falls many years ago faced a situation where their wastewater treatment plant wasn't working, and they were able to like rapidly build back up. And I think they also got a desalination plant working there, something in those lines. And they kind of were able to showcase that, hey, it can be done. And but at the same time, there are so many other, like Flint, Michigan, right? Like, what happened there, and how tragic it's been for everyone who lives there. And there are so many Flint, Michigans in US right now. It's not just Flint, Michigan. I know College Station, Bryan has not the cities, but there are areas where, it's an issue. And recently we had a developer, I think somewhere like on the suburbs of Austin, or where they built the homes and then they were denied, water access for their residents. Or there's it was Texas Motor Company that said that, hey, we're not going to give you guys any water because we don't have enough. And Texas Motor Company is a large utility which has a lot of, class C operators. So there are a lot of rural American communities which don't have access to engineers and operators, just because sometimes these jobs don't really pay that well, and amount of effort and skill that's required is just too high of a benchmark. So that kind of, I don't think it's an opinion. It's just, something that I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that I had an interview with the water utility Boston. I didn't get the job, but I was thinking about the water treatment plants around Austin. We have, I think, five of them, and maybe more. I don't keep track of that stuff. But you can expand them, population expands. And they get their water from the lake, or they get their no, they get lake. That's pretty much municipalities get their water from a well, and that's to drink. When I was growing up, we used to have an outhouse, and that's where we pooped. It was our out. And I think that's very important knowledge because, yeah, it's really, really expensive to like build a city. I think people are expensive, time consuming it is to build infrastructure.
Yeah. And with that, I just wanted to like highlight this effort from city of Corpus Christi, that they built this, kind of just raw usage statistic, or a dashboard, they're calling it, basically a Sankey diagram. And I have it on my screen, but what it shows is, first, how much water they're using. So they say 59% is from the Mary Roads pipeline, 35% from the river, and 6% from Lake Corpus Christi. And then they show, like, in a Sankey diagram fashion, how that water is then being used. So this show that 46% of that water is being used by the city of Corpus Christi, and then San Patricio Municipal Water District is using 13% or 23% of it, and I think actually city of Corpus Christi is like 46 plus 21, and then Flint Hills, and then they were just trying to showcase, or well, just like nice and cute way of showing what you were just talking about, like how some of these cities get water from the lake, some get from the drowning. And it is, I think we need to just, have more data points for, and just being able to go to the consumers or the customers, as some of these water utilities that they call us.
Yeah, we're very lucky to live in a time when we just know so much about nature. I wanted to bring up earlier, like doing dye trace studies to know like the points of the aquifer that takes in rainwater, and then you don't really know where it comes from, but you could try to figure out those flow paths. That's really, really interesting, powerful stuff.
Yeah. And yeah, again, moving a little on to civil authorities work with being able to get all the permit approvals for this Allen Creek Reservoir. That's a big deal. It's going to be near Houston and Sugar Land area. And it's going to serve a lot of communities. Between 2030 and 2080, the population of Brazos River Basin is expected to increase by 4.6 million people. So the fact that they're already planning and trying to get these reservoir built, I think big deal. Mainly because this process of building a reservoir currently in US, guess how many years it takes? Guess just like random number. From start planning to like the tap.
7.
It takes more than 50 years right now.
Oh my God.
So, because we have a lot of these reservoirs like Allen's Creek or others. They've been in planning since the 80s or 90s, and they're gonna keep going on for like 20 years. So it is a big deal that that they're able to meet the growing demand of Texas population.
I love construction. I love those numbers. Let's keep building.
Yeah, same. I like construction.
That's really good information. Yeah, there's a bunch of water professionals in Texas. It makes me really excited to practice my craft and my water curiosities. There's so much to learn about on the surface and underground. Even the animals, we didn't even talk about animals. But
yeah, animals, and also just the amount of water education that's going on right now by all the institutes, especially in San Antonio area where you live in. So San Antonio River Authority did a program from where they brought the students from classrooms and Women Leadership Academy for hands-on job experience on water quality testing. So, I just really excited to, kind of see different government agencies, kind of taking charge and, trying to bring the talent back. Because, last years we've had that like crisis of like, hey, we are the people. We don't have the bottleneck. We don't have the pipeline of talent coming in and all people are retiring. So again, another fun fact. So the water or the utility people that used to work, many years into their career, but a lot of them are retiring or are close to retirement age. So yes, what percentage of utility employees in US on average have less than 10 years of experience?
35%.
It's more, it's like over 55%. It's like 60% or something of employees have less of experience on operating utilities or in water sectors. So that speaks a lot on basically our, old folks the boomers are going away and they're not, transferring the knowledge to new kids. And I just think whatever is happening to AI is able to just, rectify that knowledge gap because we need more knowledge.
It's really interesting the number of people that are now calling themselves engineers or civil engineers, because we have numbers on that, right? Like the number of professionally licensed people leaving or retiring or something like that. That we
Yes.
I mean, it's a professional license. It has to be tracked. And so when I went to college for this, 2 years later, they opened up like the environmental engineering program. And I think you've mentioned it before, where the name of an engineer has like it has changed throughout time.
Yeah, I'm kind of not on it, but I'm sure something I might could have said. But engineer, especially, yeah, I would actually was just talking about this with my some of the friends I met. Like, what is an engineer? Like, we had a group of people. One guy, I was like, civil engineer. The other guy was electrical engineer, and there was this new guy who was AI engineer. So, like, and then it's like, hey, what is an engineer? Like, it did start from like core branches and now it's transformed into like, who does AI? or data science can somehow be engineered. It's very interesting. And then there are people, uh, new one, which you may not have heard of, like maybe human engineers, like, or people who are like human engineering, who are like, building communities, building connections. Like, for example, podcast people who are, they are audio engineers, but at the same time, people who are like building communities around either themselves or their, idea or their book, their product. That's some engineering in that also, right? Like it's human engineering. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm happy we're making more of our own water resources engineers because that's vital.
And then I just, towards the closing of this episode, which was, our longest episode so far, did want to bring up our subscribers. We're getting more subscribers, more traction on Substack. So we have, I think, 3 now. So, which is pretty good because nobody really goes on Substack. So but people are actually going there and subscribing to us. Then we have our YouTube video that for the last episode reached 100 views, big deal. And just want to thank to, all the subscribers and viewers. Like we see you, like I literally see you whenever you subscribe, and I'm like very excited when you hit that button. So if you would do us a favor and hit the like and subscribe button on this video also, that would be great. Do you want to like any words of affirmation for our subscribers and listeners?
I will say something. Conversations livelier with everybody's input. Very interesting, creative endeavor to do this. A pleasure to speak with y'all.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy.
This
So,
playlist.
so I'm really enjoying putting out this material. So keep encouraging. I don't know. I doing this. I love it, and so just sharing the love out there to anyone who's listening and spending their precious time on us babbling about the bubbles. So
Keep
thank you.
doing it. Yeah. Keep doing it. Thank you, everyone.
Mhm.